Most recognizable theme song in television every Sunday. Of course, if it's Sunday, it is Meet the Press every day. 5 p.m. Eastern Time at MSNBC, MTP Daily. My favorite guy in television. Bernie loves him, too. Chuck Todd's a very, very good friend of ours. Very good friend of ours. And one of the reasons why Chuck and I became so friendly years ago, besides the love for politics and news, is Chuck is a great sports enthusiast. You've heard that here with me and Bernard. You've heard it on Sid Sports Sunday. Love sports. So when I sent out this tweet last night, I texted Chuck, and Chuck always gets right back to me because I'm famous and we're good friends. So I sent out this tweet, and all I did was ask a question. Didn't suggest anything, didn't imply anything, just asked a question. Do you think that Barack Obama would have tweeted enthusiastically about a college basketball player getting hurt if he wasn't black? And even though I just asked a question, I'll tell you the answer right now is no. He ain't going to tweet it. I don't care if he's sitting there courtside or not. That's my opinion. Doesn't make the man a racist. He just happens to favor African-American ball players, just like I favor Sandy Koufax. But I still got savaged on Twitter last night, something Chuck Todd is entirely used to. Chuck, you saw the question. What was so wrong about the, whether you agree, disagree, yes or no, what was wrong about the question?
Nothing was wrong about the question. I know this is what's happening. And this is what social media has done, is on social media, and if you just lived on social media, you would think the country is a tinderbox. The next racially charged event, and boom, the country's going to explode. If you stay off of social media, you're like, whatever.
Agree. Yeah, I agree with you.
I'm not kidding. It's just like, whatever. If you actually look back over 30 years, things are better. 30 years ago. Things are better than they were 20 years ago.
Yes.
So it is this, I think just social media, I don't want to say people lose their minds, but whatever it is in our brains, we don't have that sort of quick, just tap the brake pedal for a second and just say to yourself, what am I about to say? Does it really matter? Or does it really reflect reality? And if you just tap the brakes for a second, most of the time you probably wouldn't tweet it, or you would tweet differently.
Oh, so it sounds like you're taking me to task here, Chuck.
No, I'm not. I don't mean it. No,
because when I ask but when I ask
I understand.
No, because when I ask a question and you look at the comments and responses, and I'm being called everything from a race baiter to a racist, when in fact I said flat out, doesn't make him a racist if he enjoys a black ball player. He's a black guy. That was my issue, is you can't even ask a question anymore these days without being labeled.
No, exactly. Look, I did an experiment once. I did 2 tweets in a row. And I just used one word in each tweet. One was Sarah, and the second was Palin.
Wow.
I didn't say anything else. You know the responses. You can only imagine the responses. And the responses that had to do with me were, you're trying to do this. Why do you hate her so much? Why do you love her so much? Why do you do... And you're just like, it is, to me, all that matters. And I think that the only thing I'd lecture you about, Sid, is just remember, every one of those tweets says everything about them and nothing about you. Oh, and that's the point. I think that if everybody looked at social media and realized their responses were reflective of themselves rather than the person they think they're going after, and if you viewed it that way, we might have a different conversation on Twitter.
Chuck Todd from Meet the Press with some very insightful social media analysis right here on the Bernie and Sid Show. Chuck, it might have been a bad week for the media. You had the Covington lawsuit versus the Washington Post, the Jussie Smollett saga. A lot of people say that the media didn't exhibit sufficient skepticism as journalists. And, of course, Lara Logan comes out, a woman well admired, respected. The media is 90% biased. They don't use 2 sources any longer. They go with single anonymous sources, et cetera, et cetera. What do you say about all that, Chuck Todd?
I say that people that want to paint with a broad brush have their own agenda and their own bitterness. Here's what I promise to do. If I ever have a problem in my career, I'm not going to blame other people in the media for it. I'm not going to blame everybody else for it. So I'm going to set that aside. Nothing chaps me more than when people make their own mistakes and then say, oh, yeah, but the rest of the media is worse.
Lara Logan made a mistake.
The rest of the media is that. My point is, that's right. And that's own it. and worry about cleaning up your own shop before you worry about pointing out the messes everywhere else. That's all I'm saying.
Snap.
That's fair.
And what I would also say, she may have a lot of knowledge about how her employers work, but you don't have a lot of knowledge about where other employers work. Now, let me go to Justice Smollett, because I actually have a different view of this. I actually look at it, while individual members of the press jump to conclusions, this is a social media hype. Without social media, I actually think this story gets covered way more responsibly. In the age of pre-social media, there would have been more skepticism automatically. There would have been, I think, more responsible coverage at the beginning. I actually look at this over the last month and say, you know what? Say what you will about the initial jumping to conclusions. Actually, crowdsourcing reporting worked. So we can sit here and individually cherry pick and say, this person jumped to conclusions.
Robin Roberts. Robin Roberts.
And you know what? And hopefully they're going to look in the mirror and just say, okay, the next time I'm going to do this. But the big picture is what? Jussie Smollett's been arrested. His scam was exposed. So I look at it as saying, you know what? The system worked. He didn't get away with it. And I'm not saying hoaxes don't happen, but you know what? There's a reason most hoaxes get exposed. And I think most hoaxes do get exposed.
Well, that depends on. There's actually.
Want to report it. And I know that people are going to use this.
Right.
Some are going to use this because they have their own. They have their own agenda about it.
Yeah.
But I just look at it this way and say, you know what? The hoax got exposed. Good work was done here in the grand scheme of things.
But I think part of the issue, Chuck, is yes, many hoaxes get exposed. Many don't, and it takes right-wing media, if you will, if you want to call it that, to expose them.
I think it takes any media. I disagree. I think it takes any media with an agenda to expose them.
Left
or right.
Yeah,
this one, I agree that it was conservative media that were more focused on where their skepticism was more targeted. But I don't think to just put this as always some right-wing media versus mainstream media, I just think is. I don't know. I think that's too simplistic.
Well, see, I know you, and I know you better. So I don't want to alienate you from the rest of your employees. You can't tell me. You can't tell me, Chuck, as funny as we are, that every single day, Katie Turr and Nicole Wallace and all those folks that work at your station go on the air with a clean slate, treat Trump fairly, treat the left like they treat the right. You can't, as a rational, smart, decent man, and you're all of those things, tell me that with a straight face. You just can't. Ali Velshi, Stephanie Rule, come on. Joe and Mika?
Chris Hayes?
Well, look, I'm not saying any reporter, stop. This is, what I'm saying is that you can't, look, I'm not saying people don't enter stories with their own experiences that influence, whatever that is, okay? That, I'm not going to say that's not there.
Okay.
But I guess what I'm saying is that I think at many times that when you have your own belief system and your own agenda, that yes, at times you can be the one to expose something that you think the mainstream media is not taking seriously enough. But at the same time, you also get caught many times showing that, your partisanship puts blinders on you.
Right.
So, yes, for every story that maybe, quote unquote, one side has the aha moment, there's 8 other stories where there's blinders on.
That's fair.
If we want to get into conservative media, I love all the wall-to-wall coverage I've seen of this white nationalist that was paid by the U.S. taxpayers and worked in the Coast Guard that was planning a massive terrorist attack. The wall-to-wall coverage on conservative media has been overwhelming.
That's fair and true. You're right.
There is, and there's no doubt that when there's a racial incident like this, you'll have one side that maybe overcovers it. And that's sort of the complaint on the other side. But right now, look at the president. He comments on Jussie Smollett. Crickets on this white nationalist terrorist.
Well, how about this? Do you think Bernie Sanders will still be alive on Election Day, November 2020?
Man, you were trying so hard to make this my last appearance.
No, we were trying to move off that subject.
No, we're moving off.
We're trying to lighten it up.
Yeah.
No. I'm talking about that I say something and it's my last appearance in media.
Oh, no. Hey, listen.
Where I was going.
No, do you think that Bernie this time around is a real threat?
I have to say, I totally underbelieved Bernie. I thought Bernie's following was good, not as good as it looked Sunday on this first week. I thought he was a guy that had cobbled together as much anti-Clinton support as it was pro-Bernie. I think we're finding out the pro-Bernie support is a much larger chunk. I have to tell you, what I'm thinking this week is, Elizabeth Warren, call your office. This is a candidacy that 6 months ago, I think when we thought Warren versus Bernie, we thought, well, who's going to have that lane? And I think most people, left and right, thought, well, Elizabeth Warren, because, you're not going to get it a second time, right? All this stuff. Maybe not. And guess what? Bernie could pull a Trump in a large field.
Yep.
Remember, Trump only won 30 to 35% for most of the primary until everybody got out of the race. Bernie could do that. You have 20 candidates in, and he's the only guy in the 30s if Biden doesn't run.
Yep.
All of a sudden, come April or May, 2 or 3 candidates in the race. We saw that. We saw this movie in 2016 on the Republican side. Crowded field, one guy with a devoted base.
Yep. There's a
one
path.
Guy with a devoted base.
There's a path for our guy Bernie. Feel the burn, baby. Listen, Chuck Todd, we're out of time, and we don't mean to put you on the spot. But
No. We'll try this next week to see what does it take to get me in trouble.
Listen,
we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. We love you. We want you back here every Friday. We want you doing your thing every day like you do, Chuck, on MSNBC and Sundays at NBC. We love you. Thanks, Chuck. All right, Chuck Todd. We'll take a short break. That's only the beginning. That's only hour 1 of the Bernie and Sid show. We got 3 more to go. Stick around. We're coming right back.
Crazy Bernie. He is one crazy dude.
Bernie and Sid in the morning.